Notts County Talk, welcome to episode 50 of the Pavis Perspective podcast, sponsored by Better Bytes Computers. As always, you can get the Better Bytes link in our description. It feels like, George, we're on Sky Sports News transfer deadline day.
Yeah, it's tense. It's tense.
It is. I mean, there's one bit of movement possibly in the National League. I'm hoping there's nothing to do with Notts. Do you think there will be anything to do with Notts?
Not if it's locked in Luke Williams' office. I don't know.
Yeah, so explain that if people haven't heard it.
Yeah, so on the presser that was released earlier on today, so he was sort of asked about potential outgoings, and like the emphasis was sort of put on Ruben leaving Rodriguez, and he said that he's locked him in his office. He's obviously joking, but
I wouldn't be joking.
Yeah, no, I'd do it as well. Barricade the door a lot, but no, he seems fairly confident that Ruben will be staying with Notts, and he sort of was talking about how he's like one of the main players at Notts, and how Ruben, enjoys the fact that he is one of the main players at Notts. So you can see that as a staying point for him.
Yeah, 100%. If anything does happen whilst we're on, let us know. If there's any news, I've heard
I've got my phone in my hand. Waiting for news to be announced.
You're basically Jim White.
As well, basically, I'm Jim White.
Basically,
same haircut and everything.
Evening to Alan, Keith, Ellie, Ian. Lots of you joining us. Has Shaman gone to Birmingham yet? Not yet. I've heard the deal was on, then I heard it was off. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Because we're all about Notts County. We will talk about that. Hi, Maggie, Shane, Callum. Callum, let's just say that man must be absolutely buzzing with that Chickson goal. Must be buzzing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what happened if he scored 2, never mind 3. But Callum must be buzzing. So, George, since we were last on, I finished the episode 49 Pavis Perspective by saying, imagine if we come out of that weekend with 6 points. And we've done it.
We have. Very impressively as well. Especially at home against Solihull. Obviously, you could probably go into a bit more detail about Halifax, but against Solihull, it literally could have been about 4 or 5-0. And, Audley sort of stated in his post-match that they weren't up to it and they weren't at it and stuff like that. But I really just feel like Notts just made it that way. They made it difficult for Solihull to just get into the game at all. And I think the key component for that, for Solihull not making their way into the game, was the midfield. And I mean, I've said it in the post-match videos, but Bajrami on Monday was absolutely immense. He was superb. Everyone's sort of talking about we need another midfielder. I mean, I just don't think we do now. I really don't. I think he is just what we've needed. We've needed someone like Bajrami for a long while. Like you sort of touched on it last week. We were promised a really good pairing in midfield with Reeves and Doyle. A few others through the years as well. But this just, Palmer and Bajrami, for me, it just works. And I cannot honestly give Bajrami enough credit, because he was just a brute. They couldn't do anything about him. Defensively, he was devastating. He was just plucking everything off players. Just such a solid midfielder, which is like I've just said, what we needed, and he really did. For me, he was the difference.
Yeah, he was. Was he your man of the match? Did you say?
Yeah. By a stretch as well, by a long distance.
Yeah, he was good, wasn't he? If we look back to Halifax, then you obviously didn't make that game.
Yeah.
I did a vlog for it, and I genuinely said, and I was messaging you throughout the game, as I do, that first 30 minutes was worse than Chesterfield. It was worse than Chesterfield. Yeah. We couldn't keep the ball. We were losing the ball. It was everyone was losing the ball, not just a select few people. We were sloppy. We let them break on us too many times. As soon as we scored, it's like a switch just flipped. We were absolutely outstanding. So the fact, and the fans stayed with the players as well. And I feel like that's definitely something that came from, we've already mentioned it, we won't mention it too much, came from the Luke Williams pre-match, where he said he just wants people to be with us. So the fans are with us. Look, we stayed with them, and then they go and score 4 goals. Unfortunately, we conceded, but we said, didn't we? Halifax were always going to score. Always going to score.
Yeah. It's Notts at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're not scored all season.
Yeah.
So,
but one thing I want to make as well, I obviously I had you messaging me throughout that game, and I did listen to that game on BBC Radio Nottingham by the app, and it was just the first half was poor. It sounded really poor, and we get two decent attempts on goal, and in the first half, and we make the best of it. And I think last season we wouldn't have been like that. We didn't have those players on the pitch to be able to be like that. Like a player like Langstaff and Kedwin, they can make a goal out of anything, especially Langstaff, from what we've seen from him so far. And for me, for the rest of the season, that is going to be the difference, picking the points from the games that we would have struggled from last season.
Yeah. Scott's goal, I think, doesn't get enough credit. The ball's come back in. You don't get many headers from that angle scored.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a second to realise it had gone in. I think it was a Jim O'Brien assist as well, so I was really happy for that. And when Langstaff ran through last season, when we were getting chances like that, and Wootton was running through, do you remember the Stockport 1-on-1? I think he missed 2 1-on-1s in one game.
Yeah.
I was nervous when Langstaff ran through. Yes, we were 2-0 up at that point, I think, but I was so calm. I knew he'd score. I didn't expect him to round the keeper. I thought he'd slot it away. But I wasn't worried at all. I really wasn't worried. So that Halifax game for me was brilliant. And then 2 days later, we go and do that. John says, what do you think of the ref about to call the Halifax game off due to the state of the pitch? I thought the pitch was shocking, but I don't think shouldn't have been called off. I don't think it was anywhere near that. It's standard. It wasn't a very good pitch.
Charlie was making a big emphasis on how bad the pitch was on the radio as well.
Yeah, maybe it's because I was like a side on sort of thing. I don't know whether Charlie had a high viewpoint. It didn't look great. But to call that off when fans were at the game and they travelled, the hour and a half, 2 hours to Halifax, would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. So if he was going to call it off for the state of the pitch midway through the first half, what's going to make the pitch better for the rest of the game?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but there we go. We will get onto the transfer. I know there's a lot of people talking about transfers in the chat. We'll get onto that. We'll just cover these 2 games. You sort of talked about Badrami. I don't know if it's because of him and how good he was as well. I think Williams has used the word destroyer before, or someone's used the word destroyer to describe him.
Yeah, it was Williams. Yeah,
Williams. They did not get a sniff at all. They're the top scorers in the league. They are a very good team. They had Dallas, who all our fans have been cooing over. I have been wanting Dallas in our squad. Didn't get anywhere near scoring.
He looked nothing. When we went to Solihull last season, he caused all sorts of problems, wasn't he? Didn't get a sniff, did he?
Not even. He got less than that. He probably spent more time in his own half than in our half. And then Sabara, I would have loved Sabara. I think he's one of the best players in the league. He proved it last season. Should be playing in League 2. Nowhere near. Absolutely nowhere near. When you full well know you're doing, and Williams has done a fantastic job tactically when Ardley's told their keeper to go down after 20 minutes. They're panicked that much. They've told the keeper to go down. They've called everyone in for a huddle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not disguised, is it? But Ellie said didn't realise Dallas was even playing. It was so good that, if there'd been it's one of those where if there had been an away following of 2,000, they wouldn't have made a noise. We would have silenced them completely. No chance. The only thing is, Charlie says, what were your views on the penalty?
It was a pen. 100%. I agree. We were agreed on that anyway, weren't we? But I think one thing we have to talk about, because Luke Williams talked about it, was, I'm going to say his name again, Bajrami's ball over was just ridiculous. It fell to Kedwin over the defender. He's 1-on-1 and he sort of back heels it, preempting that Langstaff was behind him. Now, I was pretty... I just, why didn't you just go for goal there? And then I watched the Luke Williams presser today, and he's sort of saying about how it shows good faith in his teammates and how he'd, sacrifice a goal for himself to sort of better the team if he feels like he couldn't get away with it. And when, it's interesting to see his, perception of that. Because my perception of that is you need to have trust in your ability and, go for goal. But when you actually step back and actually take in what Luke Williams has said, it's true. He felt like it'd be a better probability to sort of pass it behind and thinking that Langstaff was behind him for the team to score. And that's something that I've talked about, like playing for the team instead of, for yourself. And, credit to Kedwin for that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're working on percentages, aren't you? Where do you think you're going to score? Look, he was going away from goal. The keeper was very close to him. He probably thought, I'm not going to be able to lift it over him. Went for it. We've said, haven't we? If it had come off, goal of the season. Yeah. Possibly one of the goals of the season, because you've got that over the top ball. Don't the balls over the top look so good when they just skim the defender's head? Like, it's perfect. But yeah, it wasn't to be. So our question is linked to it being deadline day. Basically, do you wish there was a deadline day in the National League, as in where there was a cut-off point for teams to sign players? Yes or no? It's very, very, very simple. And also, I want to say, I haven't said yet, welcome to anyone listening back on Spotify. Obviously, if you listen back on this, you'll know whether any deadline day deals did go through or not. But at this point, we've got, 3 hours, 15 minutes? So, yeah. Last thing I'll say, George, about that is, I don't know if it was mentioned in Williams' presser today. Was anything mentioned about Cairo and not passing? Because that's been mentioned in the chat. I know it was mentioned after the game. Williams mentioned after the game.
No, I don't think it was. I'm going to be honest, I missed the last couple of minutes because I was in my car and it turned off for whatever reason. But yeah, the bit I watched, it didn't. But like we said, and I think you can put a lot of emphasis on that pass, and he should have passed. We all know it. But for what he did for the remainder of that game and before that, I don't think you can be too harsh on him.
Some people saying that Cairo did a highlights talk and said he should have passed. Look, I mean, I can't really blame him. He scored 2 from the same position in recent weeks, so
we still won the game. So it's not changed. It's not changed the course of the game, has it? So if it did, you've got to then weigh in a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Owning up to it's great. Oh, lovely lad Jordan's in with us. Absolute hero. Right, we've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about the transfer that, look, we're a Notts County channel, but this transfer is massive for anyone chasing it. And I think it's Chesterfield, Notts, Wrexham they're chasing personally. Wealdstone as well. They're going to be right out there at the end.
Chesterfield, Notts and who?
Wrexham and Wealdstone. Right. You're just trying to wind up any Wrexham fans that listen back. Just like last season where you kept getting Mullins' name wrong. Exactly. Paul Mallard or someone. Right. Shamanga to Birmingham was on. Then it was off. It appears it's back on. Any change, let us know in the live chat. What are your thoughts on this?
I think Chesterfield are absolutely smashing it, selling it for the prices that are being speculated online.
Go on then, why?
He's obviously a good player. The form he was in before he had his injury last season was incredible. The amount of goals that he scored in the short space of time. But there is a level of uncertainty there, the way that he's come back from a severe injury. It's a bit of a gamble, I think. Well, it's not a bit. It's a big gamble because you might not be able to hit that same form again, and it's that sort of thing that's in your head where, having that trust in your body. I don't know. I think it's a lot of money as well. The money that's being speculated in and around it, rising to £1 million if certain things happen, which is just for National League. If they get that money, that's huge. That can be reinvested massively.
Do you not think he's just come in and hit the ground running straight where he was again? He's come in, barely played any minutes, scored 2. Barely played minutes. He literally came on. He's that level of. He's not up to it that much. He came on in the 8th minute for Asante, who got injured. And then he came back off in towards the end of the game because he's that not ready to play.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I'm just putting things out there that I think could happen. I mean, it's probably worst case scenario, isn't it? What I'm saying, but it's still a gamble in my opinion. Like he's a great player. He's come back in. He's in, like you say, he's in good form. He's scored coming off the bench and things like that. But it's still a gamble, because you never. I mean, they do their medicals and all that sort of stuff, but as we've seen, things can get missed on medicals. So I don't know. I don't
So
really.
you think it's a really good deal?
I think it's a good deal for Chesterfield, yeah.
Do you think?
But I'm not saying that in respect to it's a great deal because he's had an injury and it's a risk. He could get injured again. I'm saying to be getting 700 odd thousand, which is being speculated on Twitter, for anyone in the National League is phenomenal. The amount of players that you can buy with that money that would be fantastic level at National League level, like is amazing. So fair play to Chesterfield for that because they'll make a huge profit on him, and they'll be well in the green with what they spent on him massively. So they'll make double what they paid for him if it comes true. So for me, it's been tweeted online as well by people in and around Chesterfield that you'd back Paul Cook to bring in a good cover if he does go.
What I think is, I won't beat around the bush. They were very good at Medellin. Very good at Medellin, Chesterfield. And that was without him. They were good.
We let them.
No, we just started playing at 60 minutes.
Yeah, we let them.
I thought they were good.
No, they were good.
They were. They weren't incredible, but they were good.
Yeah.
And they beat Wrexham without him. Now, I think if teams don't go down to 10 men, they're beating Wrexham this season anyway. Apparently, Gateshead were well in the game with 10 men. Woking, a few fans have messaged and commented saying that Woking would have won the game with 10 men without having 10 men. So I don't see it significantly weakening them at all. Like, I don't see them. It's not like they lose Shamanga and all of a sudden they go to like contenders for 4th or 5th place. I don't see it like that.
Yeah, definitely not. But it does. It does take a big effect, and as much as it takes more. It takes more from everyone. Paul Cook has really got to throw that belief then into the players that he does have, and he's got to sort of, because I don't care what team you play for, if one of your big players that you have a lot of faith in leaves the club, it does take the wind out of your sails a little bit. So I think Paul Cook's really going to have to rally the players together to sort of, if it does happen, move on from it and potentially bring in a replacement for him.
Yes or no? Right now, obviously, we have no knowledge of this. We're just going on Twitter. As of 10 to 8, so 3 hours, 10 minutes, 3 hours and 11 minutes until the deadline finishes, do you think Shamanga plays for Birmingham or Chesterfield in the next few hours?
I'm going to say, and this is me genuinely reading and looking into the transfer, I think he's going to be a Birmingham player.
I think he's going to be a Chesterfield player.
Fair enough. I think what it is, and this has been said, I think both teams want the best deal, which is, every time a player gets bought, both teams want the best deal. But I think they're both sort of doing that sort of poker style deal where they're keeping the poker face. Birmingham don't want to play over the odds, but Chesterfield will want to be, compensated for losing such an important player and be able to buy a good replacement who may be under contract elsewhere. So I do think it's going to go through. I just think Chesterfield might be trying to get the best out of the deal.
Where would you want him to be? Sounds a daft question, but do you want him to be at Chesterfield to continue scoring, because I believe in continue scoring, or do you want him to be at Birmingham with Chesterfield getting that kind of money in?
That's a great question, that is. Yeah, because they could really strengthen elsewhere, couldn't they?
Birmingham, I'm just looking now. Birmingham are the lowest scorers in the Championship, bar Preston. 4 goals in 7 games. Troy Deeney up front hasn't scored in 2022. Scott Hogan scored a couple, one maybe. Well, they've got no firepower at all. And
yeah,
and if for me the biggest part of this deal is it's not Stockport trying to buy him in League 2. It's not Portsmouth trying to buy him in League 1. It's a team in the Championship. How, as a player, if there's any interest and you're playing in the National League, I don't care who you're playing for, how, if there's any sniff of interest from a team 3 divisions above with a possibility of making the Premier League, look, they're not going to. They're never going to go up. But any team in that league have a chance to get in the Premier League, essentially, until it's mathematically impossible. You're 1 league away from the Premier League. How can a player not want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah,
how can you can't stop that, because if you stop that, that's the biggest deal he's ever going to get in his career, possibly at this point. Doesn't I think, I don't know if it could have bit of unrest after that. You
going
can't
back
deny
to
it.
going back to your question, what would you say? Because I'll say this. I think I would rather Chesterfield get the money for for Shimanga, because they're going to have to bring a new player in, or players, depending on how they spend the money. And I think we've seen. I mean, Chesterfield pretty much have a cemented team, so I can't see them bringing in too many sort of new players. I don't think it seems to. Not many players come into the National League and hit the ground running. Put it that way.
No. I would rather him go to Birmingham. Every time I'm at a game and I look at my phone, it seems to be like last season before his injury. Every time I looked at my phone, it was him scoring. And I know he's only just come back from injury now, but it's him scoring again. It's him scoring again. This is a really good point from Jordan. Right here, he says, I think the fact he broke his leg, major injury, will make you think, what if you stay and it happens again? Exactly. Like, that was a horrible injury for him. No one wants to see a player have that injury.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's going to be thinking in his head, that could happen again. That could happen again.
Yeah, so like, this is his chance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is his chance. And I just think he'll be a Chesterfield player. You think he'll be a Birmingham player? We both want him to be.
I agree with what Ian's saying in the live chat. I think whatever happens, he'll be playing in blue next for the remainder of the season.
What about when they're away?
You know what I mean?
Well, you got to be a little bit more, specific. I think this brings us to an early poll. I do, because there's something I'd like to discuss about this. So, George, do you want to reveal the poll nice and early?
Nice and early, eh? Shaking. Do you wish the National League had a transfer deadline day? 41% say yes, 59% say no. Where do you fall, Tom?
I think yes. I'd like to see a deadline day. What do you think?
No.
Fair enough.
I think the reason why as well, I think it just brings that level of angst around deadline day. There obviously is a little bit, because we could be losing players and stuff like that, but I think it's just unnecessary pressure to sort of get business done. Sometimes it can be irrationally as well. And I think the way that we do business isn't rushed. And I think a deadline day can induce a bit of a rush. So
I do think also there's not that much, like when the EFL deadline shuts, have we signed anyone on a permanent when the EFL deadline shut anyway? They just seem to be loans after that deadline anyway. I just think let's just
Kyle Roberts.
Was it?
Sure, it was.
When the EFL deadline is shut, possibly. But
we got from Blythe, didn't we?
Personally, my opinion is I'd love there to be a transfer deadline day put in now, as in the next 5 minutes, purely because Wrexham moaned that they didn't get the same treatment as every other club, and that it was unfair on them. Personally, they said, "Oh, we can't sign players when we want, and we're at a disadvantage." Well, I'm sorry. I don't really care, and I'd like to be a deadline in the next 5 minutes. I don't. I just think it's ridiculous. The statement they put out is I think it was to wind people up, and it's wound me up. Putting that they're at a massive disadvantage. They're not. They're not at a massive disadvantage. They've got a show on Disney Plus or whatever it is, which I'm going to watch next episode because it's got knots in it, but I'm not going to watch anymore.
What episode's that?
I don't know.
Oh, what episode are you on?
I've watched 2.
Oh, really? I started watching it last night, then I just turned it off.
It's just all about the owners.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I'll probably end up watching it, but
I'm going to watch it up until like January the 4th or whenever we played them, and then I'll just wait it out until the playoff final.
I wonder what happens at the end.
Basically, but anyway, you're getting me off track here. What I would say is, Shimanga going now. If they want to then invest that money from someone higher up in the pyramid, they want to go for someone with that money in League 2, League 1. It's going to be a lot more difficult because people will be reluctant to let people go until January. You're not going to get a top striker that a side's going to let go when they can't replace them. Because if they buy from someone in League 1 or 2, their deadline's done. They can't do anything. So I sort of feel like they're sort of scuppered either way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to have to wait till January. And is that too late? Is January too late to react to that? I think they've got a good team. I think Dobra's class. I think Asante will have a decent season, but they've both got a little bit of... Why are you struggling? You're just such a wind-up. Dobra is really good.
He's all right.
But yeah, Carl says he reckons they'll go for Alfie Rutherford. They could look within the division, and they could do that. But it's a massive player. Would you say where would you put him before we finish talking about this? Where would you put him in the National League in terms of top players?
Shimanga.
Top 10? Don't be silly. I've said this because I know you're just going to be ridiculous.
What strikers?
Top 10 players in the National League. I can't. What?
No, yeah, he's obviously top 10.
Top 5. I think it's top 5.
I don't know. Some good players in this league.
Top 5. The guy would have scored 40 goals.
But he didn't.
He got injured, but he would have scored 40 goals.
He probably would have scored more.
So top 5?
Yeah.
Top 3? Here's a question for everyone that's watching. Top 3 National League players right now, and you can include Shimanga in that because, to the best of my knowledge, is still a Chesterfield player right now.
Go on.
Top 3. Top 3 for me.
Yeah.
In no particular order.
No, in order.
In order, I can't do in order. So you either get order. There you go. That's all you're getting. Ruben Rodriguez.
Okay.
Shimanga. No particular order. No.
I feel like ranking players in different positions in the same thing is just completely wrong.
No, it's not. You do it on importance.
Yeah, I know,
but
I mean, you could say that there's a player who plays for a team that has massive importance that you don't really recognise because he's like a holding midfielder or something.
Yeah. I was going to put Maidstone's left back in.
No, you weren't.
Have you not seen his performances?
I haven't, no.
There you go then. You're not clued up on the National League. I think Ruben. I said top 3, not bottom 3. I'm saying Ruben Rodriguez, Shimanga, and Paul Mullin. Top 3 in the league. Personally.
Yeah, okay.
Ruben, Maka, and Palmer. Yeah. A lot of people saying that. Langstaff. I couldn't put Langstaff in there. Callum's right. Chickson's off the charts. I couldn't put Langstaff in there yet.
I don't know though. He's top goal scorer.
Yeah, but not yet. I've only played 6 games or whatever. 5-6 games. A lot of people saying Ruben, Palmer, and
yeah,
Langstaff.
But you talk about importance. If he's not in the next starting lineup, you're thinking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, Kyle agrees with me anyway. You're saying some really good points that's just making me look a bit silly. So Sabara, Ruben, and Mullin, based on what they've achieved, and yeah, it's a good shot. Sabara's so good, really is good. Mullin. I'd like to revisit this question, George. Write this on a post-it note or something. We'll revisit this question in sort of 3 or 4 months' time.
Okay.
And then it'll be Langstaff.
I'll literally write it in my notes now.
Then it'll be Langstaff, yeah, Bajrami, and Toby Adebayo-Rawling. I like the look of him. I like it when he came on against Halifax. Stretch the defence on that pitch. Really.
What you think he'll be our most important player?
No, George. I was joking. Come on, mate. Get with it. I'd say Bajrami could be one of Notts' most important players by the end of it. 100%.
I will say that if he continues the form that he did against Solihull, without a doubt will be.
Yeah. Exploded onto the scene, would you say?
When do you ever see a defender exploding onto the scene?
He played in midfield.
A defender midfielder, that.
I think he also he needs to stay in midfield because the defence is fine. The defence is all right. I also want to say, go on.
If we're playing a 3 at the back then, with Cameron, Baldwin, Brindley, and Bajram is now a midfielder, do we need another centre back?
No.
Who do we have for cover though?
Roller, Adam Chickson.
Yeah, but Chickson's been playing wing back, hasn't he?
Yeah, but if he needs to go in centre back for a couple of games, just chuck Taylor. I wasn't Taylor was going to play on the Halifax game. I'd heard. up until just before kickoff when he got injured.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need anyone personally. So you'd have the three, you'd have Rollo, Chickson, and you've then got Badrami that could go in there. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Fair.
I've told you. There we go. Right. Dagenham and Redbridge. Saturday. What are you saying?
It's going to be. I think it's going to be probably most difficult test yet. And I know we've played Chesterfield, but we're away from home. This is a good Dagenham side. They've made some really good additions this season, and they're doing really well. So I think it's going to be difficult.
You say they're doing well, but they've drawn at Eastleigh, they've drawn at home to Gateshead, they've lost to Yeovil. Is that doing well?
Not really.
It's because they beat Bromley 4-1 on Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, is it?
No, but I get what you're saying. Like they've turned.
That's a great result against Bromley, though.
It is a good result, and they had 10 men. I like how honest you are.
Cheers,
yeah. So they should be doing better, but they're not doing bad. I have them to finish like 6th or 7th, I think, maybe 5th, maybe 4th. But Chris says unfair advantage when we're playing Dagenham and Redbridge. Yeah, no, 22 against 11 isn't fair. But going to Dagenham, I feel like this might just be in my head, but I feel like we never do that well against Dagenham. Or is that just in my head? I'm looking at the recent results. We've won the last 3.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And we're beaten in the last 4.
Yeah.
They're just they're a team that I remember them in the Football League.
Like, yeah, I do as well. Yeah.
I feel like they should be better than they are. Do you know what I mean? They should be doing better than they are. Do you remember it was them on the final game of the season, wasn't it? Last season, where they absolutely turned over Wrexham. Was it 3-0?
Loved it.
Yeah, it was 3-0. They turned Wrexham over 3-0. Now that's something that doesn't happen. Wrexham were chasing winning the league, and they did them 3-0. Do you think our unbeaten run comes to an end?
On what, against Dagenham?
Yeah, because it will come to an end at some point, unless we're the best season ever.
Yeah, I don't think it might not. It's one of them because no one's anticipating it to happen, and watchers go and lose now on Saturday. But you just got to have a bit of belief, haven't we?
Away form absolutely killed us last year.
It did, and
absolutely killed us.
I would like to see that, and I think everyone would agree we need to correct it this season. And there are things this season that we've seen corrected early on already, like I've already discussed. Scoring out of minimal chances. I think we had 6 shots against Halifax, and we win the game 4-1. There was games last season where I don't even want to exaggerate. I think we would have had like 15 shots, and we wouldn't have scored.
Yeah,
and just that contrast from this last season to this season is that's the difference. It's going to be the difference.
I agree. We were begging last season for someone that was clinical, and it never happened. We scored a lot of goals. We scored in the 80s, but it just never materialised. I look at the results. Beat Halifax 4-1, obviously. Really good result. Gateshead 1-1. That was close to losing our unbeaten run. And Boreham Wood 2-2. Again, I'm adamant it's not a penalty, and we should go and win the game 2-1. So it's going to be really, really tricky. Would you be happy with a draw? Considering that after that we've got Bromley at home and Aldershot at home in the space of 4 days. A draw away, 2 home games, 1 on TV, and then 1 on the Tuesday night against Aldershot. I've not really had a look at this. We've had a really tough start to the season, haven't we? And I'm not going to disrespect any teams here. We play Wrexham on the 4th, which is a Tuesday night. Between Dagenham and between Saturday's game and Wrexham, Dagenham tricky, Bromley at home, tricky, but they just lost 4 on Dagenham. We then have Aldershot, Dorking, York, and Altrincham.
Favourable.
They are favourable. We could be in a fantastic position if we don't get this wrong on Saturday. But I go back to my question: would you take a draw for this one, or do you think we've just got to keep winning because other teams are going to keep winning? I know, obviously, we want to win.
Obviously, we want to win, but honestly, I would take a draw. We're on a good track at the minute. it'd been obviously 3 points, fantastic. You're obviously going to every game wanting to win, but on the grand scheme of things, the opponent taken into account, and our current points per game, it's at 2 at the minute. I've said it a couple of times now this season. Win your home games, draw your away games. I think a point against Dagenham away is a good point, but in saying that, the team, Luke Williams, the club will 100% be going out to get all 3, and they'll be disappointed if they don't.
I agree. I would take the draw, but I'd very much like a win. You have to average 2 points to be really up there at the end of the season. We're averaging 2 points at the minute. So, anything we can do to help that is absolutely massive. Ian says he's already got his Dorking in York tickets. So Charlie says he'd love to go unbeaten until we play Wrexham. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. After Wrexham, we play Woking, Maidstone, and Wealdstone. I really do think there's real opportunity here. And I felt this at the end of last season when we had that favourable run in, and we just blew every opportunity we had, like losing to Aldershot, who, albeit they played really well that day, all season were a poor side.
Yeah.
And just mugged us off in that game completely. I feel like if we navigate Dagenham and Bromley, we're in a massively good position. So I feel there's a comment right up at the top, and I won't be able to find it now. And it just says someone said they're starting to fear this is the season. I know we're 6 games in, but it was so good, wasn't it, on Monday? That
really good.
How can you not feel like that?
And the crazy thing is as well, right? I think that there's been a bit of a shift as well. I think with the fans, like I sort of briefly talked about it. I mean, the football we're seeing is a lot more exciting. I think it's a lot more direct, and just Langstaff is just an absolutely one of the most exciting players I've seen play for Notts. And I just think all that changes, and it's really it's going to help us so much this season. It really is.
Yeah, it is, and I think I know. Ian says let's not get too far ahead. Get the Dagenham game out of the way. I'm one that looks ahead at the results, and they never go the way I look, even for other teams. But I think the teams that go up, they don't mess up the games they think they should win. Maybe 1 a season, maximum 2 a season. But they look ahead and pinpoint games, and you think they'll win that. Like I look at Wrexham, and when they're at home to some teams, I think they've won it. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Just looking on Twitter here, there's been a little bit of an update on the Shimanga.
Go on then.
Birmingham remain confident of a couple more deals, but I get the impression this could be a long evening. That's been put out by a reporter from Birmingham. And then one of his name's Ben Ramsdale. He's been tweeting a lot of this stuff. He's a football journalist as well, saying that one of these is indeed Shimanga. Strap in.
Strap in. I'm strapped in. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Right. Let's go for our team for Dagenham. Off the back of 2 fantastic results and performances. 5 at the back for me. Slocum in goal. Exact same back 5. Exact same.
What? Nemain, Brinley, Baldwin, Cameron, Chickson.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't drop Chickson, not after he scored that. He needs to keep the confidence.
Seems to be well regarded by Luke as well.
Yeah, great guy as well. Did you see as well that Notts tweeted it was something like was it a year today or a year the day before after his dad died? That's class. When we had him on the channel, what a guy. Honestly, what a professional guy. Really, really great. So I was buzzing from that he did manage to score. So I think you keep Chickson in. What are you going in the midfield?
I'm gonna say Bajrami and Palmer, and then Ruben, and then Scott and Langstaff. As much as I would like to fit Austin in there, I think we're away from home. I think we need Palmer and Bajrami next to each other. We're away from home. It's going to be a difficult game. They're coming off a really good result against Bromley. So, yeah, I think we have to go with that midfield. I'd love to put Austin in there, but I don't see how we could fit him in there.
Go on.
I'd bring him on as a sub later on into the game.
I'd go Badrami and Palmer.
If that does happen, if you bring him on as a sub later into the game, I think you have to leave Ruben on.
Ruben was battered by the end of the game. He'd been ill, hadn't he? And he was battered. I'd go Badrami and Palmer, Austin, Ruben, Langstaff. I think in the tougher games, I think we need more in the middle. And this will be a tougher game against Dagenham. As I said, 3 wins in a row against Dagenham. We never do well against them. It's just in my gut. It just feels like every game's a slog. But I would go. I think Austin, purely for the running. Purely. I think it's really important. And I think Scott will play a part in the games, Bromley at home and Aldershot at home. Okay. So Charlie says bring Austin on for the last 30. I think he's had enough of a rest anyway. I think he'll be straight in. I think he'll be definitely in. So that's what I'd like to go with. We'll go for our score predictions. Whilst we're doing our score predictions, get yours in the chat, and I'll put as many up on the screen as I can. I'm a nice guy, George. I'll let you go first.
That's lovely. That's really lovely. I'm going to go 1-1. I think they're going to make life difficult for us. I think we're going to go 1 down, and then it's going to make us change our game, adapt to the game, and we're going to get 1 back. And I think Cameron scores.
Blimey. I'm going to go 1-0 Notts.
Okay.
Close game, boring game, but one that will see us grind out a result. I think there's going to be games this season. Every team that does well grinds out a result. This is going to be one of the results that we really have to grind out. And the goal scorer is, of course, Langstaff. Very late on, Poacher's finish to win the game away and going mad. Absolutely mad. Sent back up the motorway. Happy. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going for. Let's have a look what we've got then. Let's have a look what you guys are thinking. A little bit more mixed, possibly. This time we've got Ian's going 2-2, Scott and Langstaff. Alan's going 1-0 Notts, same as me. Kyle is going 2-1 Notts, Macca and Ruben. Nigel's gone 1-0, same as me again. 2-0, Austin goal last 10 minutes and a Cameron header. There's quite a few here. Charlie's gone 2-0, Macca and Austin. Callum's gone 5-0, Chicks and hat-trick, Cameron the main. As always, the most sensible suggestion. I saw Matt earlier put 3-0 Luke Rogers hat-trick. Be impressive if that happened. Chris, Daggers 1, Notts 3, Macca ×2, and Baldwin. Ellie's gone for a 2-1 Langstaff and Austin. Here he is, lovely lad, 2-1 to Notts.
What bloke.
He went for 3-1 against Halifax and it ended up 4-1. And I'll tell you what, he was gutted. He really was gutted. Shane's gone 2-2. And the last one I'll get up is Kean's gone 2-0, Baldwin and Langstaff. A lot of positivity there, George, but
I'm not surprised. 6 points in the last 2 games. Difficult games.
Difficult.
Well, Halifax not so much, but I mean Solihull for sure. And you know, we sort of said we'd take 4 points. We got 6, so everyone's happy.
They are. Club are all together, fans are all together. Feels good. Saturday, 5 o'clock. If we've got another victory, I'll be absolutely buzzing. What happened to guessing man of the match? It's just pointless, Charlie, because it's Bajrami. So
ice in the veins.
It's Bajrami, isn't it, George? Every week now.
Yeah, it's going to have to be.
Yeah. If you aren't listening back on Spotify and you have listened to us live, massively appreciate it. If you are listening back on Spotify, obviously you will know what has happened with transfers. If not, keep your eyes peeled to Twitter. It could be an interesting one for all clubs at the top of the National League. It'll be very interesting to see if that goes through. Will George be right? Will I be right? Safe trip if you are going to Dagenham. Enjoy it. Hopefully bring back the 3 points. And thank you for watching episode 50 of the Pavis Perspective podcast. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.